Social media success, I would say a combination of strategy, consistency, and really hitting on that niche that not a lot of people were. I was, I think, one of the first medical school influencers. So a lot of people, especially aspiring doctors, aspiring medical students, would follow me to see that journey, see what I was going through, get a behind the scenes look of what we were learning in medical school.
Let's talk about promotion. Let's talk about PR. And what's your secret sauce? Say, look, guys, this is what you want to do.
Definitely. With PR, if anyone's interested in using it, it's not for everyone. Right? PR only works if you have something interesting that you're doing or an interesting story. If you don't, doesn't matter how much money you pour at it, nobody's going to be interested. So our secret sauce is...
All right, I'm here with Jason Feldman. He's a Luntsman. He's wearing Jewish stars. He's going to a Christmas party, so he's wearing this Junicorn sweatshirt. We could joke around like that. It's all right. So I'm going to jump right in, man. You grew up with 100 animals?
Yeah, so that's an interesting fact itself. Yes, grew up in South Florida. My mom's kind of hobby was raising these animals. So from a very young age, got introduced to all kinds of crazy zoo animals that most people never encounter. My house was essentially a zoo. The neighbors would come over all the time, asking for the full tour and basically get a free, personalized zoo experience. We had pigs, mini horses, prairie dogs. We had a wallaby at one point, a miniaturized kangaroo, just to name a few of the exotics, but most of them are pretty boring. A bunch of dogs and rabbits and cats. But yeah, super interesting way to grow up. Wouldn't change a thing. Love animals to this day, and it's one of my lifelong missions to rescue them at some point. Once I've accomplished everything that I want to accomplish in business, that's where I want to kind of take on that mission.
What did mom and dad do for a living?
So most of my childhood, my mom was, stay at home, raise the animals. My father was the stereotypical Jewish accountant. He worked for a home building company up until about 2007. He was the CFO, doing very well. We were upper middle class. 2007, obviously, recession hit, financial collapse, especially in the home sector. He lost his job, went from making doing very well to now working, doing accounting for a small vegetable farming company. Took a 1/10 cut. We had to move homes. I had to go to work. And that's kind of where I got my inkling for entrepreneurship. I saw what happened to him, went to work for his company in collections, which I don't know if you know anything about collections, was the most miserable experience of my life. Making calls, asking people to pay their invoices, but just a total nightmare. And that's where I kind of made the decision, I'm not going to live like this.
Is this up in Syracuse? You moved up to Syracuse, New York, right?
No, so I was born in Syracuse, but we left there, thank God, when I was 1 year old and moved down to sunny South Florida. They still tell me how much they hated Syracuse and how fast they got out of there. So I'm very happy I was not raised there. So this was down in South Florida. But yeah, it was at that point I decided I was going to do something in the medical field and with some pressure from the family.
But this segues in being Florida. This segues into you were you're a volleyball star, kind of, right?
Was. So yeah, the first half of my life was spent, with priorities in different areas. Volleyball was definitely the highest among those. I played all throughout club growing up. I was the captain of my indoor team in college, but my real passion was beach. So at one point in my life, I was the #1 ranked beach volleyball team in the country. We beat California, crushed them in all of the national tournaments. My partner, who I used to play with pretty much full time, is now one of the top ranking players in the whole country. But at one point I had to kind of make the decision, right? I'm a 6'1" Jew, which is very short for volleyball standards.
It's very tall for Jewish.
Am I going to try? It's very tall for Jew standards, very short for volleyball standards.
It's tall for me. I'm 5'7".
You're right around the Jew average.
Right.
It's okay. We're anyways, had to make that kind of decision. Am I going to actually pursue this professionally, or am I going to go to medical school, which was eventually what I ended up doing.
So you go into medical school. You did really well. I read that your test, you were like the 90th percentile, right?
Yeah, scored really well on the standardized testing, specifically on the COMLEX. I went to DO school up in Manhattan in New York City. Got the residency of my choice. I was the president of the AMA through medical school, American Medical Association department at my college. Loved it. Had a great time in medical school. Was pumped for training, pumped for residency. Had also gotten my foot in the door with entrepreneurship. I had run 2 companies, through that. I took a year off between UF and medical school. Started my first company, did really well.
What'd you do?
Kind of fit. Essay writing, actually. Helped people with their personal statements, did some research paper writing, did some resume building, and had a pretty large team. It was about 9 people, but due to experience, I didn't know how to continue growing it without my presence there, without being on site, and marketing didn't really know anything at that point. So once I left medical school, that eventually fizzled out without my presence there, which was fine. I was in medical school. I should have been paying attention there anyways. Let it happen. But at that point, a friend called me up. He's like, I want to start a business. I know that you're the only friend I've had that's done this before. Let's start something. So we started Rave Doctor, which is currently the #1 selling nutritional supplement for people who go to raves, EDM festivals. And that was a ton of fun. Still active, still crushing, definitely not making us very much money. It's got a low market cap.
Wait, this is Rave Doctor?
Rave Doctor. Yep, you can go to ravedoctor.com.
What's that all about?
Nutritional supplements for people who go to music festivals. So it's loaded with electrolytes, antioxidants.
So instead of taking MDMA, a little side note about me, I directed a documentary in 1993 on the history of raves and house music. Went around the country for 4 months.
You'll love this then.
Yeah, well, I interviewed a doctor at UCLA that specialized in MDMA, and I walked over a lot of passed out bodies that did a lot of nitrous. But so this is where you come in and say, hey, let's give them a healthy alternative, so to speak.
Not so much an alternative. The real mission statement that we had starting Rave Doctor was to educate them on not safe drug use. Obviously, we don't condone any of that. But if people are going to go to these things, they're going to use drugs, they need to do so safely. There's bunk police out there doing the same thing. That was our mission. So our supplement helps them not have seizures. It helps them lower the potential neurotoxicity of doing high strain exercise without consumption of water and things like that. So we did a big campaign to educate. We did a big campaign to create an awesome product that helped them stay healthy at these things, especially long events. And it took off, did very well, but was also one of the things frowned upon by my medical school that I'm sure we'll get into.
So, but that did really well. You niched down. That's they say, niche down. You niched down. You actually did pretty well with that. But the medical school said, how did they find out about it? Why they put a kibosh on it? And all that. So they found out about it. Somebody kind of told them, did an expose. He shouldn't be doing this. And I get it. An eye and an objective eye looking at it from the outside, I can see how it portrays. But obviously, they weren't in tune with our mission. They weren't in our company. They weren't seeing all the good that we did. But eventually, ended up graduating medical school and going to training, and those issues kind of followed me there too. Do you have brothers and sisters?
I do. Younger brother, younger sister. I'm the oldest.
Okay, so you're the responsible one. Mom and dad, our son's a doctor. They're very proud. What's your relationship? Your relationship. Get the damn words right, Mike. Get the relationship. What are they like with your siblings and your parents? I'm just curious, what makes you tick? Were you always the responsible one?
Sure, definitely not. I would say I'm the least responsible one. I was the one getting in trouble at a young age. I was the one doing things that were contrary to kind of societal norms, thinking outside of the box, as most successful entrepreneurs I later learned do. But a lot of the moves that I was making, even from a young age, were not kind of condoned by family, especially extended family and grandparents, which I think I probably should have identified at a young age, realized that, sticking to the path that they had laid out for me, go be a doctor, go get married, do all these things that society wants you to do. I was like, no, I don't want to do any of those things. So no, I wasn't responsible. I was always hardworking. And I think that's what led to a lot of my success and, getting into medical school, becoming a doctor, scoring high. I always had very high standards for myself. But it was the being stuck in a box that I didn't identify with. So,
all right. So you graduate, you open up a practice. I read it's basically a holistic, type of practice you had, right?
So osteopathic versus allopathic, MD versus DO. That's something I used to have to educate people on all the time. So We train with MDs, same residencies, same capabilities. There's osteopaths that are plastic surgeons, dermatologists. A fourth of graduating doctors now in the United States are DOs. In other countries, their capabilities are limited. They're not allowed to prescribe. They're not allowed to do surgery. Here, it's essentially the same thing. The only difference is that DOs also learn musculoskeletal medicine, so some chiropractic techniques. And you could also say that they think a little bit more holistically. In some cases, that's true. In some cases, it's not. But it's essentially an equivalent degree.
Okay. So you open up a practice, and how
yeah, sorry, I didn't answer your question.
I'm just curious. How was your journey like here? Because you totally go off into another direction later on. So like, how do you get into, what is your business like? What does it look like at this point?
So fourth year of medical school, I essentially took off. That's usually time that's reserved for doing rotations with hospitals where you think you want to do your residency. I didn't do any of that. I spent the whole year kind of building this marketing agency that ended up doing really well. You know, we were doing 7 figures in our first year, ended up selling it towards the end, keeping part ownership. But after my fourth year of medical school, I decided to pursue being a doctor, even though I was very distracted, and went into residency training in a family medicine residency in Orlando, Florida. That was a 3-year program. After 1 year, they basically gave me the option, do you want to keep doing business, keep doing your social media thing, or you got to go. Ended up leaving that residency.
Let's talk about the social media. Like, how did you segue into that? Like, what was the impetus, and like, how did that happen?
So even in medical school is where I kind of became a quote unquote influencer, right? I was sharing my medical journey through medical school, ended up garnering a pretty large following. Several 100,000 people were following my journey, started to express some opinions, which is a no-no for most doctors, that a lot of people didn't agree with, although they were very, tame. I wasn't saying anything crazy. But that's kind of what led that conversation to happening, right? It was okay until opinions and medical professional talk started to enter the play.
Yeah, but real quick, people listening, everyone's like, how did you do so well? Case in point, he's a good looking dude, ladies and gentlemen. He's 6'1". He's got a good looking mug on him, so that doesn't hurt with social media. But what were some of the other bullet points, if you had to rattle them off? What was like, how'd you reach that success?
Social media success, I would say a combination of strategy, consistency, and really hitting on that niche that not a lot of people were. I was, I think, one of the first medical school influencers. So a lot of people, especially aspiring doctors, aspiring medical students, would follow me to see that journey, see what I was going through, get a behind-the-scenes look of what we were learning in medical school. So it was a combination of finding the right niche and then just sticking to the niche. So I was doing a lot of video content, a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and a lot of those. And it was a time where Instagram was really hot. Right now, it's much harder to grow. So I was fortunate to be able to start and grow a channel during that time. So combination of timing, consistency, definitely learning how to produce content quickly and effectively and reach my audience in a way that a lot of other influencers were not, was helpful.
Okay, cool. All right. So you graduate, you have your practice. What's that? Was it successful? What would it look like?
So I never had my own practice. I was in residency training. So still technically a student, but making money, but licensed, prescribing. And that was good. I was working 80 hours a week. I was happy some days, unhappy other days, but no free time. And was making much more in business than I ever would have even as a family medicine doctor. And really the whole time I just wanted to build things. Really doctors is it's a profession where they're gathering knowledge. The whole day-to-day job, everything is about how much can you stuff into your brain and then document, and you help some people along the way in a very kind of simple, single-line fashion. Whereas kind of what I wanted to do as an entrepreneur was build something, build a company, hire people, build something that I could eventually step away from. And I wasn't seeing that as a possibility in medicine.
So what year is this?
This was 2020.
Okay.
During that time.
So then 2020 comes along. This is interesting. So, you're doing well, but then COVID, happens, and then you say, is that where you had to go all in on a PR firm, or what? How did this happen? What did you do? What was that? What did it look like there?
Yeah, so pretty much forced to leave my residency program right before COVID, 2 months. So that was pretty traumatizing news for me, and to have to break to everybody in my world.
Did you see? I mean, because you're like on the front lines of this thing. So, because I mean, you have an understanding. Do you hear things before a lot of other people did? Because you're in the medical field, or what was that? What was happening before the big thing happened? What were some of the rumblings that you heard?
Yeah, especially having done all my training in New York City, which was a hotbed for it. Everything that was happening and the worst of it was happening there. And a lot of my good friends who I was training with were there dealing with it as everything was happening. I was in my apartment. I had just gotten out. I was with my business partner at the time, just working full time on this company. So I was very detached from it, but still very attached to it through everybody else. So getting the behind the scenes on the phones, and man, the timing couldn't have been better or worse. I had so many mixed feelings during that time. So happy that I wasn't there doing it as a doctor, working 100 hours, triple masking, fearing because we didn't know anything at that time, thinking that this was it. This was the apocalypse. Doctors scared to go into work every day, thinking that they're going to die. So I felt some guilt, not being there, not being on the front lines in the hospitals fighting this with my comrades who I had trained with, and also some, relief that I was, there doing my thing, working to accomplish my dream, even though was no longer practicing every day, which I missed. But the timing couldn't have been weirder.
Meet the Bolo Pack, the ultimate travel companion that transforms into a hammock, a pop-up tent, and even a cooler. Whether you're hiking, camping, or chilling at the beach, the Bolo Pack has you covered. First up, the Bolo Pack is a sleek, compact backpack, perfect for day trips or long adventures. Need a break? With a simple pull, the Bolo Pack transforms into a relaxing hammock, perfect for catching your breath during hikes. Planning to spend the night? The Bolo Pack also converts into a pop-up tent, giving you shelter wherever you go. And the best part? The Bolo Pack doubles as a cooler, keeping your food and drinks fresh for hours. Let me show you how easy it is to switch between modes. First, the hammock. Just a few simple steps, and you're ready to relax. Next, the pop-up tent for quick shelter setup. And finally, the cooler function, ensuring you stay refreshed on the go. From day hikes to weekend getaways, the Bolo Pack adapts to your needs. Whether you're chilling, camping, or keeping your snacks cool, ready to upgrade your travel game? Get your Bolo Pack today and take your adventures to the next level. Link in the description.
So you saw the writing on the wall. You're like, people are going to have to quarantine. I remember like telling, because I have a company, I told my employees, I'm like, what are you talking about? We're not going to do that. That's crazy. But it became a reality real quick. So you're like, no, this is going to, you saw it happen. This is what's going to happen. And then you said, I want to start a PR firm. As I've always wanted to do that. Now I'm going to go back to doing that. Or how did you make that shift to say, I'm doing this, now I'm going to do that? I mean, did you already have that?
So the PR firm, no. So the PR firm idea came long before the COVID came. So we were doing digital marketing very successfully, my fourth year of medical school. And our most profitable part that I became the most interested in, especially living in New York City, I was in the influencer space, in the media space while living there. I got very into PR, started learning it, started getting myself engraved in it. So that was the mission. Then COVID hit. It was an unprecedented time. Did I know quarantines and vaccine mandates were coming? No, nothing like this has happened since Spanish flu 1970. We had no idea what to expect. We just knew it was bad and we were scared. And especially, from the beginning, we were kind of like everyone else. Like, this isn't coming here. This isn't that bad. We don't know that much, but you want to stay positive at first. You don't want to assume that the apocalypse is coming until it's here. Now people are on ventilators, doctors are getting it, and it's a very scary situation. And then at that point, we need to quarantine. We need to fund this vaccine, whatever we need to do to stop this. Now we're here. It's just been a crazy journey.
So you team up you have a partner on this PR firm. And when was the time that you really kind of started it? Where you weren't doing it, you had to start it. When did you get into that?
Probably, I'd say beginning of 2020, right? Like 2 months before we really started feeling COVID. Like 1/1/2020 was when we dedicated full time to this. It was me and him sitting there 14-hour days, 7 days a week. We were actually very fortunate to have no FOMO during the quarantine. We were locked inside and all we did was work. So that's when I consider the official start date. So we're going to have our second birthday, the company's second birthday, coming up pretty soon. So it's been very exciting. And my partner, Scott Bartnick, is everything that I'm not. He is the engineer. He does all the HR operations, the accounting, all of the things that I hate doing. And very fortunate to have that kind of complementary partner. And I think that's been a big factor in the speed of our success.
When did you start to see traction where you're like, holy shit, this is going to work?
About 6 months in. The first 6 months of any company are a little bit tough. You have to start building case studies before you've ever done anything. You have to wear every hat. You're selling, you're marketing, you're pushing service, you're executing the service yourself. So that was a brutal period, probably the first 6 months before we actually had enough operating income to start hiring people and start building out processes that worked. And then, within the first year, we were doing more than 7 figures. By the end of the second year, we'd 5x'd that. Now we've got close to 50 employees, and I'm no longer wearing all of those hats that I hated wearing. My partner's dyslexic. He can't write or read for crap. And when we started this thing, he was having to write and to pitch journalists and to doing just things that were not within his wheelhouse. So that was a tough time for all of us. Glad that's over.
What kind of clients do you have?
We work with a relatively wide range of clients. We work with a lot of tech startups. We do a lot of stuff in DeFi and blockchain. So Axia Coin is a good example now. They've exploded over the past couple months. A lot of people have heard of them. Bitcoin of America. A lot of SaaS companies, a lot of thought leaders as well. So people in the healthcare space who we would consider subject matter experts, thought leaders in their various industries. We represent them, getting them media exposure. And then we also do a lot of things in reputation management, crisis management for people and for companies who are going through negative bouts in the media, who need representation. We come in and help them as well.
So let's talk about promotion. Let's talk about PR and what are rattle off 3 or 4 bullet points. What's your secret sauce? Say, look, guys, this is what you want to do. If you wanted to, you're selling, whether you're selling a widget or have a service, this is like 4 good points for you.
Definitely. With PR, if anyone's interested in using it, it's not for everyone, right? PR only works if you have something interesting that you're doing or an interesting story. If you don't, it doesn't matter how much money you pour at it, nobody's going to be interested. So our secret sauce is we flip the way that old legacy PR firms were doing it, that I had become familiar with. They hire people who are masters in communications and public relations, and then focus a lot on strategy. What we do is hire reporters and journalists who are sick of their jobs and how their media outlets are treating them. They're used to getting pitches after pitches for years and years. And then they come and operate on the other side of it. And they make the best publicists on earth. So that's kind of been our secret sauce. And there's really no company doing what we're doing, especially on monthly contracts. They all have 6 to 12 month engagements. It's outrageously priced. But really, it's bringing all of the relationships that they have with their media publications and other people in the media coming to work full-time with us. They know how to pitch. They know who to pitch. And then it's our job to find really interesting clients. So people that are actually making a difference, changing the world, have a really interesting founder story, and getting those stories highlighted. And if you match all of those things up perfectly, you've got a recipe for success pretty much every time. And it's a recipe that we've gotten pretty good at replicating.
Cool. Sounds good. So young, 30 years old. What do you?
It's relative, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, but that's still no, not really. It's not relative. It's young. It really is, because you have so much track left. So that's why I want to segue. What do you have planned for? What's on your 3 to 5? What's on your 10, 20? What do you got planned?
So very hopeful for the future. Obviously, with the kind of success we have, we know that we're doing something right. We just recently made our move to the Tampa Bay area from Orlando, where we're setting up our headquarters. The city is exploding. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the area. Kathy Wood is bringing a whole tech incubator here. She's obviously the founder of ARK Invest, one of the biggest hedge funds that there is. So this city is exploding. We moved here. We want to be part of this explosion, especially with local PR. We're very tied into the local media network here. And we want to kind of be the premier name in digital media relations. We're doing it differently than everybody else. We want to build this company into an 8-figure company in the next 5 years. And no doubt, high 8-figure company. We have a $100 million goal, but in the next 5 years. But this has become a passion project. I love it. I would love to do the speaking tour, help other entrepreneurs, grow the podcast, grow my business coaching business, just for fun. And then eventually, 10-year goal, open up a rescue and help the animals like we spoke about earlier.
You know, you're a smart dude. I could tell you're very business. You know, I could tell that you want to engage in nuts and bolts of business, and you seem pretty busy. What do you do on your personal? I see you got the crazy, unicorn shirt there. You're going to go to a party later on. What do you do for fun? Because it seems like you're pretty busy, and sometimes a busy entrepreneur, it's difficult for them to wind down. I got the ADHD, so I naturally I'll deviate no matter what. But sometimes, when you have somebody that's so driven and focused and they don't have an inherent natural distraction, that so what do you do to wind yourself down?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked. I would say the first 2 years in business, there was nothing. It was 100% grind mode 100% of the time. And I feel like that's how a lot of startups need to be as they're building that momentum and they're wearing all of those hats. So balance just isn't realistic when you're in that phase. I've been fortunate enough over the past 6 months to feel the pressure starting to come off and starting to re-engage myself with everything that I used to be interested in: volleyball, my social life, music festivals. So all of those things are things where I definitely find an escape in. Love music festivals. We travel the country to do all of the best ones. We'll be at Electric Forest and Burning Man this upcoming festival season, COVID permitting, all of that stuff. But other than that, I've got a great social life here in St. Pete. The city's home to some of the best people on earth. We're out on the boat wakeboarding every weekend. Like I said, we're going to a Christmas party right now. We just came back from Art Basel, Miami. So starting to enjoy life again, starting to get back into some old hobbies like volleyball that I've missed dearly. But yeah, we're brand new out of this 100% grind mode phase, and it's been nice to start enjoying life again, but definitely still working, 10-hour days in business.
That sounds like a lot of fun. And you're right. I hear it all the time, and my business was no different. The hardest time in your business is the very beginning. It's not going to be like that forever. And sometimes you're so amazed when you look back, you're like, wait, am I doing something wrong? Because there's actually an extra couple hours here, and then it gets even better. Sometimes you can go away for a couple of weeks. You don't have to worry about it because processes are put in place. But I see that you're just getting out of that, and a lot of that stuff sounds fun. And you got it going on, man. You got a lot of stuff. You've had so much success, and it sounds like you're really making some great strides. And tell everybody how they could find you, your podcast, and everything else where they could find Dr. J. Feldman.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying all of that. I know, looking on the outside in for people listening or watching, it looks like success after success, but there's been some brutal points in life. Was arrested before I went to college.
Wait, what?
Didn't get into any colleges.
Let's talk about that real quick. I want to know what for.
17 years old, walked into a neighbor's garage and took a bottle of liquor with some friends. Stupid peer pressure stuff. Seemed like nothing. Ended up being the sheriff of the city, doing a full-fledged investigation, found my license plate. I admitted to everything, got charged for it, and spent the first year of college, which is not a very good college, on probation.
You pretend to be the sheriff?
No, it was the sheriff's home that I walked into their garage.
The bottle that you stole, was at the sheriff's house?
Talk about some bad luck, right?
Well,
yeah, 3-month investigation over.
You know what? We're all that. That's a good. See, that's good that you share that, because that's what makes us normal, and we all make mistakes like that. I've got some mistakes I won't get into mine. That's what I reserved for my show. But I've made so many stupid mistakes, and I think people like to hear that, and that probably scared the shit out of you.
scared the shit out of me. And then I had that other scare, essentially lost my job. And I say I left, but it was essentially them forcing me out of my residency program, something that I worked my whole life for. The whole thing just stripped out from under me. Felt like I lost everything. So just lots of really low points in life. And I feel like we need that as entrepreneurs to have that contrast. And especially when we don't identify as a loser, feeling like a loser and working your way out of that hole is super empowering. And it's almost a superpower to have dealt with things like that in the past. But it's not just success after success. There's been some horrible points that have led me here. And I'm grateful for all of those things at the same time. Sorry, I know we were wrapping up there, so I'll let everyone know where to follow me.
Hey, look, we do it discursive here sometimes. We'll jump around from place to place.
Yeah.
But I like that you brought that up because, that'll give people value because they're going to look into you, and they're going to hear your story and they're going to think volleyball star. They're going to think, good looking guy, that guy, it's easier for him to become social, but a lot of busting your ass. And those are long days, but also making mistakes. That makes you human, and I like that story. I like that because we all done stupid stuff. I don't care who anybody out there. I don't care how good you are. You all made mistakes, and I like your mistake. Because you learn from it. And you're doing well right now, and it's great stuff that you're doing. It's exciting work. And it sounds like you still know how to have fun. As soon as I opened up the screen, I'm like, this guy's a funny guy. He's serious. Very serious. But I could tell that, when tonight at the party, you're going to be Dr. J. Feldman, crazy guy. So that'll make me feel good that you're that person.
Yeah, we can't stop having fun. And also, all the people I went to medical school with, all the attendings I was working with, they suck the fun right out of you. And I hated that. That wasn't me. So whatever you're doing, whatever your business is, whatever your job is, if you're not having fun, if you lose that part of you, get the hell out of there. That's no way to live your life. But I appreciate you saying that. Mistakes are what lead us to the next step, and I'm sure the last one was not my last mistake.
No, we got plenty more, but hopefully it's like a pendulum, right? Hopefully they're not as extreme, and then the pendulum kind of evens itself out in the middle.
Like the stock market, like you grow, and then there's a correction. You make a mistake, and then you climb up. You're bigger and better than before. Another big correction.
That's right.
And then you keep learning, keep growing, and just. As long as you learn,
yeah,
right? Because the next mistake is coming. You don't know what it's going to be, but just don't make the same mistake twice.
Right, and that's a great graph. The graph of life and success and business right there, which is the left to right graph. It starts off low and it's constantly going up and down, but hopefully it's constantly going upwards right. Upwards to the right. And that's basically what sounds like you are. And that's what you want your, NASDAQ 100 to do. And that's what, entrepreneurship and the stories we talk about all the time are about, So thank you for sharing that. One time, take us out with where we could find you.
100%. If anyone wants to connect with me, Instagram's the best spot. It's at Dr. J. Feldman. I've also got a podcast, Mentors Collective, where you can find me on my website, drjfeldman.com. But please shoot me a DM. If you're listening to this, you want to connect with me, I'll respond to anything that's reasonable. Just send me a message. Let me know that you found me here, and let's have a conversation.
Jay Feldman, thank you so much. Pleasure.
Thank you, Michael. It's been fun.
Thanks for joining us. Gear up for your next adventure and head over to bolotour.com to check out the amazing Bolo Pack and their other innovative outdoor gear. Catch you next time.